Thank you, Claudio. A long time I haven't done that mistake. I haven't made that mistake. So we begin today from the reincarnation, the paragraph or headline there, which is the verse 13, chapter 1, Panchadasi. And as I was saying, the Vishwas, they were created together with the physical material universe. And the purpose of the creation is to allow the jiva who are moved by vasanas, allow the jiva to process, purify, and refine one's vasanas, developing spiritual vasas that are going to conduct him to self-inquiry, self-knowledge, and moksha or liberation. So this is the purpose of the creation, and according to the scriptures, okay? And in last verse, it was also saying that the trajectory of the jivas is not a smooth, orderly, and continuous, growth or elevation. No, it goes in zigzags, and a lot of these jivas, they decline to the extent that many times they get a new birth, but no longer as a human being, but as an insect maybe, or as anything else. And that takes us to the subject of reincarnation, which is something that Ramji, as we know, avoids talking about, but it is something that the scriptures present as a fact. The scriptures present the logic that supports samsara as a cycle of birth, life, old age, death, and reincarnation. That is the very definition of samsara. So samsara is a wheel, that keeps us, trapped, birth after birth after birth. And why? Because the jivas, they have desires and fears and aversions up to the last moment. Yeah? So we are running, we are trying to gain, purna by the means of achieving our goals, getting objects, and attaining things. And when it's about time to leave, those desires, they usually they are not gone. One dies with a lot of desires, and one of them being the desire for what? For continuation. Everybody is like, oh my God, I want to continue. I don't want to end my existence. So the jiva is totally identified with the body mind. Therefore, he is moved by the vasanas, the desires and aversions, and he keeps producing and feeding those desires and aversions to the last moment. And then in the end, he does not accept mortality, and he has all those desires plus the desire to continue. I know I have attachment. I have things that I want to solve, to resolve, unfinished. Oh, and how about in my business? What's going to be all those attachments, those desires? They are going to do what? You know. So if it would be like, okay, I have produced all these vasanas, and then Ishwara say, okay, that was the end of the line. Now I'm going to eradicate all your vasanas, so you are vasana free. You don't need to come back. No, that's not the way the samsara is designed. Ishwara is going to just look at this system of vasana, the program, and say, okay, here comes your vasanas. Okay, so you're gonna come back as a cockroach because you behaved very badly. Huh? Or you say, oh, you did great work, but you still have some more work that you need to do. You're gonna come back as a human being in a nice family, in a nice space-time structure and culture. So that's going to be more conducive to finish up your work. So that is the way the system is designed here, and that's why samsara is described as the wheel of birth, life, old aging, death, and reincarnation. That's how samsara is officially and traditionally described. Okay? But as we know, Ramji does not like to talk much about that because people, they get into the idea that, oh yes, and I want to be something like that. And in my past life, by the way, I was a king already. You know, have you ever seen somebody say, in my past life, I was a beggar and I was how you say, a criminal, you know, a murderer, you know, a pedophile. Nobody says those things, you know. The ego said, oh, past life, I was a very, very important yogi or Mahatma or, you know, a wise person and a king, a rich man, you know. So it can give room to a lot of distractions. But let's go into the verse. The jivas, they pass from birth to birth like insects that have hatched and fallen into a river. They are swept from one whirlpool to another by samsara's restless currents, never attaining peace. This is a beautiful definition of the jiva and the trap, the wheel of samsara. Yeah? So the jiva is present here like small insects that somehow are there having a good time at the bench of the river, you know, and then it comes a wind, unexpected wind, and then when he sees it, he's dropped into the river, and then he starts floating and trying to, you know, go to the to the how to say? I just said the word. Uh, so to get out of the river, to get out of the bench, yeah?
The riverbank.
Bench, yeah. So he wants to go to the bench of the river, but then, and then when you see, he falls into a whirlpool, and then the whirlpool starts just taking him even deeper, deeper, deeper into agony, into suffering, into pain, into sorrow, into grief. So he goes there, he almost dies, but you know, but somehow what happens to him? He does not die. The same way as the jiva, every lifetime is here. Yeah? Illustrated by this whirlpool. So the river is the river of life, you know, and the whirlpools are again and again new incarnations in which the jiva goes through a lot of suffering, and then he comes out, he takes a break, just like the insects. He survives the whirlpool, and then he starts floating again, half dead, half alive. And then when he thinks that he's coming out of water, and then the current takes him to another whirlpool, and then again the same agony, the same, you know. So this is how Vidyaranya described the jivas, you know. Samsara's restless currents, you know, this cycle of reincarnation takes him again and again in another body, in another birth. And the jiva never attains peace until it develops, you know, merit, until it develops karmic spiritual merits, not material merits, develops spiritual merits, punya merits, you know, spiritual punya. And then gradually he gets the opportunity. Sometimes he's born in a certain condition. I don't know why I got into all of this. I was born like my brother, but somehow at early age, I just walked away from society, from my job as an engineer. I became a spiritual hip, literally, understand? And I don't know why. Nobody will ever understand, for the despair of my family, you understand? So we are born with certain spiritual vasanas that somehow are going to guide us unconsciously towards the scriptures. And then as we move, you know, gradually to the scriptures, to some satsanga, you know, and then we start enjoying the notions of peace, you know, of consciousness, and then it takes a huge spiritual merit as well to understand that this freedom, this peace, can only be found, can only be attained by jnana, by knowledge. because most people in the spiritual world, they are there, they are being moved by spiritual vasanas, but they are trying to resolve this problem by the means of actions to produce limitlessness, right? So we keep doing, and then another life may go, or decades may go, until we develop merits to come to the clear understanding that we are already full, and we only need to adjust our understanding. So all of that is part of the journey of the Jiva soul, that goes from life to life, and with the potential to elevate, to purify, to refine the intellect, to become a spiritual being until it attains peace. But as long as the person, the soul, is a samsari, as long as the person thinks that the world of the object are real, and the object intrinsically they contain the happiness and the purna that I'm looking for. So the person is a samsari. In a lot of the times, the objects are spiritual objects as well, but it's still what we call spiritual samsara. You understand? So never peace will be there. The peace is only when we come to the end of our journey, and then not only we come to a sangha, but we need to find the scriptures, and then the scriptures of yoga must be left behind and replaced by the scriptures of Jnana Yoga. And we need to have a certain punya, spiritual punya, merits, to understand that the scriptures, they have value only when it is unfolded and presented by a teacher, because there are a lot of people who want to figure it out on their own. They hear about self-inquiry, and then they just want to do the who am I, and meditating, and who am I, and they don't go much anywhere, So it takes a lot until we come to see the light outside of the tunnel and see, okay, there is peace, and now I understood this. Now I am in contact with the scripture. Now I have a sangha totally focused on jnana, and I have a teacher that can help me to clear my doubts. So this is all part of our process to attain this peace, this satisfaction that we all work for. I'm not going to go through the commentaries of Ramji, because Ramji has different notions about reincarnation, notions that I don't want to comment or confront or be objected or anything. It's just different ways, And I don't see any problem with the teachings on reincarnation, because as we know, we we keep having desires, we keep doing actions. Actions produce results of actions, and of course, all of that does not disappear overnight when the body decays. All of that has to be transferred to the next medium. You understand? It's so obvious, it's the soul. Of course, the jiva is going to be a new jiva. Of course, the jiva is not going to have access to the memory of the previous jiva, because the memory was hardwired or hard kept in the subtle body, connect with the brain, so to speak. So when the physical vehicle is gone, so we have all those subtle impressions, subtle memories, but it's no longer conscious. It's all in the causal body, because everything is retained in the causal body. But one's conscious mind, every memory that was there, poof, because the connection with the body and the brain and everything is over. And then the subtle body, somehow it retracts or shrinks back, so unfolds back into the subtle body, into the causal body. And then every memory becomes unconscious. Okay? But we know that we come with those impressions. Why? Because we come with certain temperaments. And my character is different from my two other brothers, my tendencies, my desires, my fears. So we carry on the same raw material, which is the vasana load of previous life, but it all remains unconscious in the causal body. Some people here and there have access to that material, very rarely. So, but it's evident that we did not begin from nothing. But the thing is that the idea of reincarnation is misleading when people think, oh yes, I will live forever because, Eileen will be there again and I will remember everything. No, it is the mind that reincarnates and it goes unconscious and it's going to shape the new birth in a different time, space, culture, paradigm. And then that altogether is going to configure another jiva, but being operated by the same load of vasana. So it's a continuation of the journey, okay? The verse 31, when their good deeds bear fruit, they enjoy temporary rest, as if they had been removed from the river by a kind person and set on the shore. So this one here is an analogy for our good deeds, When the good deeds bear fruit, and then the fruits of spiritual punya, the ultimate punya is spiritual. Oh, no, I want to have punya to be a millionaire or a billionaire. That's all right. You're gonna take care of that. You're gonna be born in a very rich family because you worked so hard and you did not really how you say, got all the fruit, the fructification. You did not enjoy the fructification of your effort. You're going to be born, you're going to be a billionaire. Okay. No, the real deal here, the real punya is spiritual punya. So when their good spiritual deeds bear fruit, they enjoy temporary rest as if they had been removed from the river by a kind person and set on the shore. So we have this insect, the insect falls, and then it's there, one whirlpool, two whirlpools, three whirlpool, and then the insect is really, tired of the same, merry going round and round, the same thing. And it's, I can't live that way anymore. From one whirlpool into another. I'm ready for something. I want to put an end. I'm going to commit suicide. And then when he's desperate about that, and then there is a good soul walking by, a sage, okay, a sadhu, or somebody with a lot of love, compassion, and sensitive. And then it sees the trouble of that insect, and then very carefully goes there and say, no, I'm a little bit in a hurry because I have to go back to the asha. But now that I saw this poor creature, he needs a hand here. He's desperate, or she. And then he goes out his way and says, okay, let me take this beautiful insect and I'm going to save him and build up some punya for myself as well. And then takes this insect and then get into the trouble. And now what I'm going to do, if I put there on the sand, it's going to burn because the sun is too hot, and then has to find a shade, a nice place to put so that the soul can recuperate a little bit. And so what is that? So when our good deeds bear spiritual punya, and then we find the scriptures and the teacher that comes, and picks us up, with compassion, with love, it comes and says, okay, let's rest under the tree of jnana, the tree of self-knowledge, and let's have satsang. Okay, you are tired of samsara, you're tired of going and coming back, So let's have satsang, jnana satsang. The following verse, 32. Similarly, individuals caught in the whirlpool of samsara sometimes receive teaching from a teacher who has realized the self. and differently in differentiating the self from the five sheaths, attain the supreme bliss or peace of release. Okay, so again, it's the analogy that the jiva is as an insect, and sometimes when the time is right, when the maturity is there, he's tired. He does not want to keep going back again and again in the same vicious circle, and then he somehow, you know, cries for help, and a teacher, you know, appears, you know, and the teacher here, Vidyaranya says, a teacher who has realized the self. You know? So we got in a lot of I got several teachers before, huh? And what is a good teacher? So there are three kinds of teachers or three kinds of gurus. There is a guru that is initiating guru. When I came into the spiritual world, I got an initiating guru, which was Osho Rajneesh. I was raw, I was unqualified, and I need to do a lot of work to begin, you know, beginning from therapy and stuff like that. So we get a guru that we deserve, as we say. So I got the initiating guru, and then later on, I got the second kind of guru, which is called inspirational guru. Inspirational guru is a self-realized guru, is a guru who is really self-realized, but does not have at its disposal a complete body of teaching. It does not have a teaching, you understand? And then it tries to improvise. Oh no, I mean, I just something happened to me, and I saw the leaf falling from the tree, and then I got enlightened, and now this is my teaching. Keep watching for the leaves falling from the tree. You understand? So this is an inspirational guru, and a guru who is self-realized. Therefore, he can inspire others. He can transmit confidence that that liberation is possible. Okay, this is the second kind of teacher or guru. The third kind of teacher is called a teaching guru. Okay, so the first one was initiating guru, the second inspirational guru, the third is a teaching guru. What it means is a real guru, because what removes suffering is the teaching as revealed by the Upanishads, by Vedanta. So these teachings, you know, which is pure knowledge, is the only remedy against ignorance. And suffering is due to self-ignorance. So the third category is a teaching guru. So once we have this kind of good merits, you know, and then we are going to find a way unconsciously, without understanding, Shwara is going to somehow direct us until we find a teacher who has realized the self. So to have a teacher who is not self-realized, it may be okay, but it's not really okay. Because if the person is still under this misidentification with the body mind, there is a body mind, they can pretend they're talking big and about the self and this, you know, and they even use words of non-duality, but they teach duality. So it's very different. It's never going to really do the job. Okay, so it's like asking somebody who has their hands are tied. Okay, and my hands are tied, and then you ask somebody who has their hands tied to untie my hands. You understand? It's not possible. So one has to have free hands to help others to untie their hands. So it's very important that we realize the merits involved in finding good teachers and to come to the scriptures on self-knowledge. Okay? So therefore, when time is right, he comes out of the one whirlpool of samsara, and due to some desire to put an end and a good opportunity. Opportunity is also very same. Timing, as we say in the USA, timing has to be good. You know, you have to have the desire, but then timing has to play on your side as well. You know, So, and then when you have a good time, we have a good opportunity, and then the teacher appears, and then it's just, we are just moving towards the end of the game. And then this, with the help of a teacher who have realized the self, he goes on doing its job of discriminating the self from its 5 sheaths. So we're going to go into the methods of self-inquiry, which involves the 5 koshas, the 5 sheaths. So sheaths is a simple word that that means a cover. It means a case. For example, when we buy a glass, and then the glass, we buy a glass and we get a case as well. No? We put the glass in the case, and then the case is going to cover the glass. No? So it's going to protect and cover the glass. No? The scripture says that the self is limitless, and it's all pervasive. It pervades everything. But it appears as if the self is covered by 5 different cases, as if something would cover the self. You understand? Of course, the jiva is going to appear, being the reflected consciousness, whose nature is original consciousness. It's going to feel like I am the self, but it's going to be covered by what? It's by covered by small things, nothing else but 5 layers of human experience. So as we know, experience is a small little thing, it's a small object that we witness our experience over and over again. So now, how can small little objects, how can something really cover the self? No? For example, we have a huge table, and then you go look for a tablecloth. And the table is so big that they don't make those tables anymore. So you don't find a tablecloth because they fall short, because the table is huge. So just imagine the self, which is that which pervades everything, that on which the objects are superimposed upon. How can that consciousness be really covered? Of course, it's not really covered. You understand? It will never be covered, but it appears that it is covered for a simple reason. The reason being is that the moment that the human experience comes into place, the jiva sees the world, the outer world and the inner world through the sense instruments and the sense organ. And then the jiva gets what? Gets distracted by the name, colors, and shapes of the object and finds samsara wonderful, fascinating, beautiful. Okay, so the jiva is born extroverted due to rajas and tamas, understand? And sees the world, and then it gets distracted the same way we get distracted. When I'm reading the book here, Ranjiv's book, I get distracted by the words. And guess what? I never see the paper. I don't see the paper. Understand? We don't. It's just a simple distraction that we all have due to the extroversion of our sense instruments and sense organs. Okay, so to begin with, the self is never really hidden, covered, concealed, and there is nothing that could cover the self, because the self is what? The infinite self. Have you heard about this description of the self as the infinite, limitless self? So it's infinite, it's limitless, and it's infinite. How can something finite really cover the self? So it's important we understand that, because what we are is self-revealing, self-evident all the time, as the light of consciousness that reveals the world, reveals the jivas, shining in the intellect of human jiva. It's always present. It's pervading, permeating every experience. And the universe, the entire universe, does not even come close to be a small pinpoint, you know, in the infinite self. You understand? It's nothing. Okay, so that's us. That is our true nature. This consciousness, awareness. Why we are here? Ah, okay. So we're gonna go into the teacher will help us to differentiate the self from the five sheaths and attain the supreme bliss of release. Release from what? Ah, the poor insect. Now he's released from the river and from the whirlpools of the river. And what about the jiva? The jiva is released from samsara. And then cloud comes to me and says, oh no, no, I want to have another round. I like samsara. Huh? I had a friend of mine in Tiruvannamalai that was a little bit shocked with these teachings. And then she was really like, oh no, I don't want it, you know, because I have a good life and I enjoy my life. I want to come back to enjoy my life. Huh? And then I had to tell her, okay, you enjoy your life now, but you don't know about tomorrow. If you exhaust all your punya here and all your punya later on, you may have to come back here on different circumstances, you know? And moreover, and furthermore, so you never know. So, furthermore, if you have a slightest desire for continuation, don't worry about these teachings. Because if you have a very, very, very subtle desire to come back again, you will come back again because you're the boss here in that sense, you know. The desires that keeps us attached to the world, you know. And fears, aversions, negative desires. So I told my friend, don't worry, don't panic, take it easy. You are not going to disappear. You are going to come back because you want to come back. Take it easy, okay? It's not really going to be you, but you're going to be back. Have you heard Papaji telling the story of him? He was a yogi. He had an ashram. He had a large following with him. And then towards the end of this incarnation, there was a woman from a lower caste who used to go and clean the ashram. And he saw that woman, that young woman, and he had such a physical attraction to the woman that destroyed his mind. You know, his mind was totally disturbed by that huge sexual desire for that woman. You know, and he was a very advanced soul already, you know, respected by every one of his devotees in the ashram. And then he tells us in those days in Lucknow, such is the power of desire. I had to come back again in that lifetime that he just left. I had to come back again and marry that soul, that woman, and put up a family with her. You understand? Such is the power of our desires. So Ishwara, as Ramji likes to say, is a facilitator. Wow, you want this? Yeah? That's why we have the saying, be careful with what you wish for. Yeah? Because, you know, Ishwara is going to say, okay, you want it? Okay, we're going to make it for you so that you can learn something. Jivas receive teaching sometimes because they develop the qualifications necessary for motion. As they assimilate the meaning of their experience and realize their helplessness in face of the uncontrollable nature of objects. Very nice. Otherwise, the jiva is just totally moved by ignorance, believing that the objects are going to solve one's problem. But when they get wise, mature, they have certain qualifications, they start connecting the dots they start to understand that the harder he tries, the more he's frustrated because nothing seems to work in samsara. And then when he least expects, he has certain qualifications developed. You know, we never know when these qualifications are going to make us fit for the Upanishads, to the self-inquiry. So when we least expect, we are qualified for moksha. And then why we are qualifying for moksha? Because we have processed experience intelligently. Life is about processing experience, processing vasana, desires, you know, interacting and experience, and then extracting lessons, you know, learnings. You know, when we process experience intelligently, comes a point that we no longer want to experience, unless it's unavoidable to go through certain experience. Okay, but we are not craving for experience because we understood how empty experience are. You know, they have a beginning, a middle, and end. They keep changing in intensity. They never fulfill us, and they leave us all the time with a taste for more, better, and different, as Ranji likes to put. Leaves us with a bigger vasana, a bigger desire for more because I liked it. So once you start really seeing these desires becomes habits becoming addictions, addictions becoming, you know, illness, sickness, and you know, and then we say, okay, no, there is something wrong here. I have now realized that experience are here to just warn me out to the point of total frustration so that I begin looking for a different solution here. So they realize their helplessness in the face of the uncontrollable nature of samsara. I mean, the nature of the object is such that we have no control. We cannot get what we want. And furthermore, we are helpless in the sense that we have no control over the results of our action. One of the beautiful statements that Osho Rajneesh said that I never forgot, I'm talking about 35 years ago, he said, nothing fails more than success, you know, because as long as we still striving for success, we still have some hope. But once we are successful, and yet we find ourselves empty-handed, you know, and then we begin to understand, okay, this is now a great teaching, a great samsara is a great teacher as well. No? Shwara is a great teacher. Maya is a great teacher, as Ramji often says as well. Animal and other jivas are uninterested in liberation because they do not assimilate the meaning of experience. So this is another interesting topic because generally speaking, we say that the animals are not subject to karma, but the tradition says that even plants and insects are subject to karma, okay? So they are subject to the process of cause and effect and development because they are jivas as well. But here, the commentary of Ranji is that animals and other jivas, like plants, are uninterested. They have no interest in liberation because they do not assimilate the meaning of experience. So we don't know exactly like a dog, a cat, or a cat, or a bear, or a dolphin, or a fish. We don't know how they experience the world. Some people say that they have a certain intelligence, but generally speaking, we don't find them getting together in satsang to communicate about how to get free of samsara. That much we somehow we observe. The same that they don't come to that, you know, search for liberation, let's say, you know. So they don't really understand the meaning of the world and the meaning of experience. They don't have a developed intellect to come to exercise this so-called free will, the power to determine, discern, to discriminate, and to decide again and again until I start, developing certain wisdom to make me understand that what I'm really searching for here is peace. I want peace. I don't not no longer want happiness coming from happenings from object. I want to rest in peace while alive. You know, it takes the human intellect, as it seems. Does not indicate. Okay. Okay. This joy, the joy, because the verse here talks about attain the supreme bliss of release. So I don't like much those words. Ranji is not very fond of these big words of supreme, absolute, and all these big words. Attain the supreme bliss of release. Okay, there is a lot of experiential connotation there that somehow makes people like, oh, the bliss, the supreme bliss, the transcendental bliss, And no, it somehow is just that one attains the peace that passes all understanding, a peace. Now I'm in peace. I understand that, my existence, my conscious existence is the source of peace and love and bliss and satisfaction. You understand? So we don't need to go into those transcendental supreme blisses. You just feel like I'm released from samsara. Yeah. Okay, and how released one is from samsara is a very personal subject thing as well, because I tend to say that a human being is a mixture of consciousness plus reflect consciousness associated with the body-mind complex. In other words, is the spirit plus matter energy. So there is always some rajas and tamas operating in the jiva, the body-mind complex. And there is always some subtle ignorance here and there that may come to disturb a little bit this absolute peace, let's say. You understand? So how released one is, only Ishvara knows, because once we are really released, we have processed, we have come to that peace, that satisfaction. When we go to a restaurant and say, oh no, I'm fully satisfied. Oh, am I dessert? No need. I am really purna. The same way the soul, the jiva comes to a point of peace. He's released from this compulsion to more experience, more. I need also this, I need all that. Give me this, give me that. I want this. When comes all of that ends, one is just at peace. One is released and one is at peace. But you never know. If there is some very, very unconscious desire there, it may be enough to fabricate another medium to go and, okay, now go and finish up your job. Yeah, you never know. Right, Mark? Where are we at? Oh, I think my page moved here. Okay.
Verse 33, I think, Arlindo.
Yeah.
Page 29.
Yeah, the word supreme, this joy eventually subsides and merges into the constant bliss of awareness. So it says here, Ranji is still commenting on this transcendental supreme bliss. He says that jiva that realize they often experience intense joy and bliss and novelty of the. So this bliss, it in the beginning, it is something new. This satisfaction, this peace, it's something that one gets used to. You understand? In the beginning, one feels like, oh my God, everything is so different. You understand? And I feel so much more peaceful, and living my life, relating with the world in a different manner. But then it wears off a little bit, as Ramji said. But Ramji is saying that some people, they have a strong realization and then they experience this bliss like big time. And then it works out because there are two things play. One is an experience, and we see that experience, there was self-recognition, self-realization. The experience works out because experience by nature come and go. The self-realization is the knowledge that has to be extracted from the experience. So the experience fades, the knowledge has to be retained, and then the relationship with the world changes. But one gets quickly used to it. The problems continue to appear, but you deal with it in a much wiser and balanced and manner. You understand? Ramji said, this joy eventually subsides and this joy merges into the constant bliss aware. This joy becomes a kind of a constant peace and satisfaction. It's not that it's uniform. Everything in nature is subject to fluctuation, subject to everything that is experiential is subject to fluctuation, degrees, So it's not that it's totally constant, but it is a satisfaction, a peace inherent to the knowledge of your true nature as limitless consciousness that can never be affected by any circumstance of media. You understand? It's like Ramji likes to put, it's a peace that comes out of a sense of confidence that nothing can ever really affect my true nature. This is something very, very intriguing, to say the least. Very, very, very intriguing. Because it's your nature, not your jiva nature, but it's your true nature as satya. But here you are as a jiva, experience something that is truthful, but in respect to your nature and satya. But you are here, and here your true nature is satya, and nothing can affect you. And then you here, you deal with things from that perspective or angle, of understanding that nothing fundamental can affect you as consciousness. Okay. Which is steady and fulfilled. From the temporary blisses that jiva experience when they get what they want to avoid what they don't want. Okay, this joy eventually subsides and merges into the constant bliss aware, which is sometimes called samadhi. Yeah, it's called natural samadhi, sahaja samadhi. Is the mind that is resolved by the knowledge about one's nature as consciousness. Then the mind, it somehow, the desires and aversions subside and the mind is calm and reflective. So this is called sahaja samadhi. It's not nirvikalpa samadhi. It is meant to distinguish the bliss of awareness, which is steady and fulfilling, from the temporary bliss. The temporary bliss, we know, they are full of defects. When we experience bliss from indirectly by the means of gaining, attaining, or avoiding, we know that those bliss are very fleeting and defected and limited in every sense. We have done several analyses of that kind of bliss. So the method of self-realization. So now the Vidyaranya begins with the teachings, which is the methodology of Vedanta. The verse 33 to 48 begin the systematic unfolding of the 5 layers of human personality, which apparently hide awareness. As we know, it does not really hide. Systematic unfolding. So this systematic unfold, as we know, when we come to Vedanta, actually, we have 5 stages. The first stage being the scriptures on karma and dharma. We need to understand dharma, and we need to understand the laws of cause and effect, actions and results of action. And then in the entire context has to include Ishvara and the Dharma field. So, and then we have karma yoga, dharma yoga working for us. And then if we need to develop certain disciplinary qualifications, we can go and do some Vipassana yoga. We go into meditation and we're going to develop certain powers to regulate our thoughts, our sense instruments, our instruments of actions, our emotions. We develop these disciplines, okay, that are going to refine our personality, okay, makes us more balanced and so on. So this is all part of Vipassana yoga. Once we have covered Karma yoga, Vipassana yoga, and then we go into the third stage of Vedanta, which is the method of self-realization, because the previous method was not a method to produce self-realization, but it was a method to produce preparation, refinement, okay, purification, development of qualification. So we went through the karma, dharma, Vipassana, and then we go into the third stage, which is Shravana. Shravana is listening to the teachings as systematically unfolded by a teacher. And then we begin submitting our minds to these teachings as presented by the scriptures with the help of a teacher. Okay, this is Shravana. So this next verse begins with the third level of Vedanta, which is Shravana, of the 5 layers of the human personality. Okay, so we're gonna hear these teachings of the 5 layers of the human personality. Okay, which are the 5 layers? We all know is the identity we have as the body, with the body as the body. Annamaya kosha. Annamaya kosha is the kosha or discover this concealing, the physical body. It appears that it hides the self. Why? Because we are the self, the light of consciousness, see the body, but immediately say, oh, I am the body. You understand? Isn't it amazing? And gets absolutely fascinated and attracted to the body because it very soon it understands that the body is born, grows, gets old, and dies. And they say, oh my God, I saw some people already dying here. Oh my God, I don't want my body to die. And then this identification and attachment becomes really neurosis. Is the biggest human difficulty or frustration or trauma is the mortality of the physical body, because the jiva thinks that if I lose my body, I lose my consciousness, my existence, and so on. So we begin with the body. Annamaya kosha, we're going to understand the way we experience the body as if the body is the self, as if the body is now covering the self. And then we go from the Annamaya kosha, then we go to the Manomaya kosha, which is the mind, okay? Our emotional thought center, where we contact the world, and then thoughts and sensations, emotions attached to those thoughts appear. Okay? So the Manomaya kosha is our emotional body, so to speak. So we're going to analyze all those. Oh no, I jumped the prana. Prana Maya Kosha, we identify with the pranas, okay? The five physiological functions: digestion, respiration, evacuation, and the power to extract the subtle body or to eject undesired substance from the body. And there is another one that I forgot. So respiration, digestion, evacuation, and circulation. Okay, so this is all pranas, beautifully designed by Ishwara. It's nothing but rajas, it's air, vital air, intelligently designed vital air. They know how to operate this system. And we identify with that level in our human experience. So we are distracted by these different levels of experience. The body as the body, the pranas, and then the Manomaya Kosha, the emotional body, the thoughts, and so on. And then the Vijnana Maya Kosha, we identify with the intellect, as we know. Well, I am my notions, my knowledge, and this and that. And of course, we love to identify with the Ananda Maya Kosha, huh? When we just rest in peace because we go unconscious, yeah? Either because we sleep or because we somehow fainted or because we developed a vasana for Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Yeah? So we enjoy a big rest. It's almost as if I was taken away from the river of samsara. But it's just a few hours in the night. We sleep, and some people may get excited about the idea of doing some sadhana to learn how to faint at will. I don't know. I understood that it's not only about deep sleep. I can learn how to faint. Every time I faint, I'm totally at peace as Ananda Maya Kosha, So we know that we get easily attached to these 5 different levels of human experience. They are called the kosas, that which covers a case or something. However, something that provides everything cannot be covered. The self is the substratum, it provides everything, it's never covered by any small little name and form. There is nothing bigger or beyond infinite consciousness, infinite awareness to cover it, because reality is non-dual. Reality is limitless. The self is limitless because there is nothing other than itself. When there is nothing other than you, and then there is no point from where you end and something continues. It means that you are that without any limitation, without any border. There is only you. If you leave the United States and you go north, there is a point that the United States limits appear, and then you move into Canada. I used to live not far from Canada, but the self, is infinite, limitless. So you never come to the end of it. Therefore, there is nothing infinite that could really cover the self. That is the point. For example, objects do not conceal space because space pervades them, even though they exist in space. Space is a beautiful symbol of the self because of its pervasiveness. Pervasiveness is the most pervasive element in creation, Nietzsche. No? It's there. It's limitless as long we think Nietzsche. Everything is accommodated in space. There is nothing that exists outside of space. So it's limitless, and nothing, of course, in Nietzsche, in this appearing order reality, will ever cover the space because it's the substratum of Nietzsche. Okay, we covered most of this commentary. The purpose of this teaching is to focus attention on the self. These are introductory verses. The koshas will be discussed in details. The verse 33, the five koshas or the sheaths of the self are the food body, the vital air, the mental, the intellect, and the bliss. Identified with them, it apparently forgets. The jiva, identified with those apparent covers, with those phenomenal objects, with those different levels of human experience, human identification. Therefore, it experiences the world through these five different koshas or bodies. The five koshas is like dividing the three bodies in five bodies instead of three bodies, you know. Is the causal body, you know, another kosha, and then the intellectual body, the emotional body, you know, the prana body, and the physical body. It's just a different division of classification. We identify with these bodies, and then we experience the world through these bodies, and we feel limited by such identifications. Understand? Because anything we identify with limits our human experience. It makes ourselves to feel limited. Understand? Identified with them, jiva apparently forgets its real nature, and it is apparently subject to transmigration. Transmigration is what? You know, it's the cycle of samsara. It's transmigrate from one birth to another birth to another birth to another birth. And it forgets its true nature. Why? Because it takes a lot of work to develop spiritual punya, to come to the scriptures and to develop the third eye. What is the third eye or the sixth sense? We have five senses all turned outwards. And then we need to, you know, to work, to grow, develop spiritual punya until we develop this wisdom, this spiritual wisdom, this eye of wisdom, you know. And then we can see something that samsaris do not see. Samsara only sees the world through the five senses. And then when we develop the third eye or the sixth sense, which is the scriptural understanding, value for this, and then we start seeing the self through the words of the Upanishad. We start seeing the self, seeing the self, seeing the self, until we realize that the self is just myself. And then direct, immediate aparoksha jnana takes place. The purpose of these teachings is to focus your attention on the self, because our attentions are otherwise focused on the world. The five senses connect to the five respective types of objects, and we are totally distracted and we cannot see our nature as Puna. These questions will be the five sheaths, the food, apparent subject to transmission. Okay, I don't want to push it because it's already 6:10. I don't have anybody here who would say that I'm breaking the new rules, but later on when they see the video, they say, oh, you know. Okay, my friends. I say goodbye. We meet on Thursday. If you feel inclined, love you. Ishwara willing, we meet again soon. Okay? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Vidyaranya. Thank you all. Meet you again. Okay? Many hugs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye-bye.